The human child's brain splattered across the Galactic Council floor as the alien executioner coldly fired his disruptor. The once pristine chamber, a symbol of interstellar diplomacy, now echoed with the grotesque reality of violence. The council members, usually a picture of stoic calm, were momentarily stunned into silence. The innocent blood that stained the floor unleashed humanity's fury, awakening a wrath that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. Captain Logan Carter stood on the bridge of the HSS Indomitable, a massive starship orbiting Earth. His fists and jaw were clenched as he watched the live feed transmitted from the council chamber. The repulsive Athorian counselor Xanth had just smugly announced the council's ban on all human faster-than-light, FTL, travel, confining mankind to its home system. The image of Xanth, with his bulbous eyes and a sneer that twisted his features, was burned into Logan's mind. For the alleged crime of a human boy vandalizing an alien shrine, the council had decreed his execution. The child had been no more than 12 years old, his face streaked with tears, his voice a desperate plea for mercy before the disruptor beam silenced him forever. "Let this be a lesson to your primitive species," Xanth had sneered at the camera. "Humanity's disobedience will no longer be tolerated." The feed abruptly cut out, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Logan's voice, when he finally spoke, was a hoarse whisper filled with grief and rage. "They killed a child." Commander Hawkins, standing beside him, gripped the rail with knuckles white from the pressure. "What are your orders, sir?" he asked, his voice barely controlled. A cold fury filled Logan's eyes as he turned to his crew. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Power up the Nova cannons and plot an FTL jump straight to the Galactic Council's headquarters." This was the day humanity had long dreaded yet secretly prepared for. The day the aliens would reveal their true nature and cross a line from which they could never return. It was the day that would see humanity's homeworld threatened, and the Council's betrayal of galactic law. The time had come to make the alien aggressors pay in blood and unleash the full might of Earth's most powerful warships. Ships that had not seen battle in centuries, ships that would shake the galaxy and burn the Council's worlds to ashes. Deep within the heart of the Rocky Mountains, a hidden complex stirred to life. The stone cracked and parted, revealing massive camouflage doors that swung open with a heavy groan. Captain Logan Carter marched down into the hidden depths, flanked by his highest-ranking Earth Defense Force officers. The long concrete halls were dark, lit only by flickering fluorescent bulbs. The air was cool and carried the faint scent of dust and metal. Boot heels clicked on the cement as the group approached the end of the corridor, where an immense blast door loomed. The door was solid steel, several feet thick, an impenetrable barrier to all but those authorized. Logan stepped forward, his expression grim, and placed his palm against the biometric scanner embedded in the wall. The device beeped in recognition, and slowly, ponderously, the door began to grind open, the sound of heavy machinery echoing in the confined space. It swung wide to reveal a cavernous underground hangar, shrouded in shadow. Logan hit a switch on the wall, and floodlights snapped on, illuminating the secret space in harsh white light. The officers gasped, eyes going wide as they took in the sight before them. Filling the hangar were rows upon rows of warships, their hulls forged from a strange iridescent metal that glimmered under the lights. These ships were unlike anything the men had seen before. Angular, sleek, and predatory. Their design spoke of power and deadly purpose, a stark contrast to the utilitarian vessels currently in service. These were warships built for a different era, a different kind of warfare. Logan turned to face his men, his expression as hard as granite. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice steady, "allow me to introduce you to the Sigma fleet, built in secret during the early days of human space exploration and hidden away for this very moment." The officers exchanged looks of awe and determination. The Sigma fleet, long a whispered legend among the ranks, was real and ready for action. Logan continued, "Today, we retaliate. Today, we show the Galactic Council and the galaxy at large that humanity will not be cowed or confined. We will fight for our freedom, and we will make those who threaten us pay dearly." With that, the officers saluted their captain, their resolve solidified. The hidden warships of the Sigma fleet, long dormant, would soon be unleashed upon an unsuspecting galaxy, heralding a new era of human defiance and retribution. When the Council confined us to our home system, they had no idea of the ace up our sleeve. Commander Hawkins stepped closer to the nearest vessel, reaching out to run a hand along the prow, his brow furrowed in awe. The ship's sleek, angular design was a testament to advanced human engineering, shimmering with an iridescent glow that hinted at the sophisticated technology within. "I thought the Sigma fleet was just a myth," Hawkins murmured, his voice tinged with disbelief. Logan, standing nearby, shook his head. "The Sigma fleet is very real, and it's time to show the galaxy exactly what human ingenuity and determination can accomplish. The Council wants to confine us to Earth? Let's see how they like it when we show up on their doorstep with technology centuries ahead of their own. With the power of the Sigma fleet, we will make them pay for their crimes and secure humanity's place among the stars." The gathered officers exchanged glances, their faces set with steely resolve. As one, they nodded, their expressions hardening with determination. Logan straightened his uniform and strode toward the lead ship, the others falling into step behind him. "It is time to remind the galaxy that humanity bows to no one," Logan declared, his voice ringing through the hangar. "We have been pushed too far, and now we push back. Today we bring the fight to the Council's door. Today they learn the consequences of their betrayal. Today we unleash the Sigma fleet." Light years away, Counselor Xanth lounged on a floating divan in his lavish quarters, the very picture of decadence. The craggy-faced Aoran sipped a glowing green liquor, savoring the burn as it slid down his throat. The drink was potent enough to strip paint off a starship hull, but to Xanth, it might as well have been water. An air chime sounded, and Xanth glanced up languidly as a hollow screen winked on. The face of Yk, his aide, swam into view. The diminutive Aeon's normally gray skin was flushed in anxious violet. "Counselor, our long-range sensors have detected a large fleet of unknown vessels entering our system at high speeds," Yk reported, his voice tight with tension. Xanth waved a dismissive hand, his many rings glinting under the light. "So send a patrol to intercept them. Probably just some upstart race trying to make a name for themselves." Yk shook his head, the movement jerky with barely suppressed panic. "Sir, the patrol is already gone. They were destroyed the moment they entered weapons range of the unknown ships. We didn't even have time to get a visual on what attacked them." Xanth sat bolt upright, his drink sloshing over the side of the goblet. "What? How is that possible? What kind of weapons are they using?" Xanth lurched to his feet, striding over to an ornate control panel set into the wall. His fingers flew over the interface, punching in a code. The room darkened as a massive holographic display burst to life, filling the air with a glowing star map of the Aeon system. A cluster of angry red dots was speeding toward the central blue orb that represented the Aeon homeworld. Xanth stared uncomprehendingly as he took in the sheer number of incoming ships. By the gods, there are hundreds of them. How could an unknown race possibly have a fleet that size without us knowing about it? An icy tendril of dread curled in Xanth's gut as he studied the display, a horrifying suspicion crystallizing in his mind. He turned to the holoscreen, meeting Yk's terrified gaze. "Yk, tell me everything you can about the configuration and capabilities of those ships. Leave nothing out." Xanth's voice was deathly calm, belying the fear churning inside him. Because if he was right about the identity of these invaders, then he had just made the gravest mistake of his life. A mistake that might very well spell the end of everything he knew. Yk's report was not encouraging. The ships were angular and sleek, their hulls composed of an unknown iridescent alloy that defied scans. They moved with impossible grace and speed, their formations flawless, and their weapons, by the ancestors, their weapons. Plasma cannons that tore through shields like they were paper. Missiles that moved faster than the eye could track and never missed. Some strange directed energy beam that sliced ships into pieces with surgical precision. But worst of all was the symbol emblazoned on the prows of the incoming ships. A symbol that every species in the galaxy had grown to fear, even if only through whispered rumors and half-remembered legends. The symbol of the Terran Dominion. Humanity had returned. And this time they had come not as explorers or diplomats, but as conquerors. Conquerors armed with technology beyond the Aeon's wildest nightmares. Xanth stumbled back from the display, his heart's hammering a panicked staccato beat against his ribs. He thought of the human child cut down on the floor of the council chambers on his order, the catalyst for this invasion. He had gravely miscalculated. He knew that now. They all had. And now his people would pay the price for his arrogance. As the Terran fleet drew inexorably closer, Xanth found himself wondering if there was any force in the universe that could stop the oncoming storm. Somehow, he doubted it. On the view screen, Xanth's eyes bulged, his mouth opening and closing like a beached fish. He gripped the arms of his command chair, the plastic creaking under the force of his talons. Logan didn't give him a chance to recover. Xanth seemed to deflate, his shoulders slumping. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. "What do you want, human?" Logan leaned forward, his eyes boring into Xanth. "Justice. The Council will rescind its ban on human FTL travel, effective immediately. You will acknowledge our right to expand and explore as we see fit. Any further acts of aggression against humanity will be met with swift and devastating retaliation." Xanth's nostrils flared, his pride warring with his fear. "The Council will never agree to your demands. You're just one species. You can't dictate terms to the entire galaxy." Logan nodded to Samir, who typed a command into his console. The room's atmosphere seemed to tighten as the full might of the Sigma fleet prepared to demonstrate exactly what humanity could accomplish. Zahn's image shrank to a corner of the view screen as a new visual took center stage. It showed the wreckage of the destroyed Aeron battlecruiser, the twisted metal still glowing cherry red. However, it was the activity around the debris field that made Xanth gasp. Swarms of small, agile craft poured out of the Sigma fleet's hangar bays, darting toward the remaining Aeron ships like angry hornets. These fighters moved with impossible speed and grace, weaving through the defensive fire with ease. Then, they opened fire. Beams of searing blue-white energy sliced through shields and hulls alike, leaving glowing scars in their wake. Missiles streaked from launch tubes, corkscrewing through space to impact with devastating force. The Aeron return fire was sporadic and panicked. They couldn't seem to lock onto the human fighters, their targeting systems confused by the strange material of their hulls. In mere minutes, a third of the Aeron fleet was reduced to drifting wreckage. The remaining ships were in disarray, their formation broken, their captains shouting contradictory orders. It was a rout. Throughout it all, the Sigma fleet hung back, weapons primed but silent. They didn't need to engage. Their fighter screen was more than enough to handle the outclassed Aeron warships. Logan turned back to Xanth, his expression grim. "I won't ask again, Counselor. Yield and let this be the end of it." Xanth slumped back in his chair, all the fight gone out of him. He looked around at his bridge crew, seeing the same realization in their eyes. They had gravely underestimated the humans, and now they were paying the price. With a trembling hand, Xanth reached out and terminated the transmission. The view screen went dark. Logan turned to Hawkins, his eyes hard. "Signal the fleet. All ships, weapons tight. Give them a chance to comply." Hawkins nodded, relaying the order. For a long moment, the bridge was silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Every eye was glued to the tactical display, watching the red and blue icons that represented the two fleets. Then, slowly, the red icons began to move. One by one, the Aeron ships powered down their weapons and drives. They were surrendering. A cheer went up from the human crew, fists pumping the air, backs being slapped. They had done it. They had brought the might of the Galactic Council to its knees. But Logan didn't join in the celebration. He just stared at the display, his face an unreadable mask. He knew this was just the beginning. The Council would not forgive this humiliation easily. There would be repercussions, political and military. The road ahead would be long and hard, paved with conflict and sacrifice. But Logan also knew that this was a turning point. No longer would humanity be content to live under the Council's thumb. No longer would they be second-class citizens in their own galaxy. Today, they had proven that they could not only stand up to the alien powers that sought to control them, but that they could beat them. Today, They had taken their first step toward a new future, a future where humanity charted its own course among the stars. And may God help anyone who tried to stand in their way. Zahn's bulging eyes darted across the readouts, the numbers and symbols blurring together into a maelstrom of impending doom. The human ships had vanished from the screens as if they'd never been there at all, but the counselor knew better. They were out there, waiting, invisible predators ready to strike. He slammed a webbed fist on the console, barking orders in the guttural Aeran language. Surround them, box them in, and destroy them. The Aeran fleet lurched into motion, the ponderous capital ships straining to outmaneuver their nimble adversaries. They spread out in a vast sphere, weapons bristling from every surface as they sought to entrap the Terran Sigma fleet. On the Indomitable's bridge, Logan leaned back in his command chair, a smile playing across his lips as he watched the aliens' clumsy attempt at tactics. Beside him, Samir frowned at the display. They're trying to hem us in, cut off our escape routes. Should I order the fleet to pull back? Logan shook his head, eyes glittering with anticipation. Negative. They want to play at being the superior species? Let's show them what humanity is truly capable of. All ships, initiate Ghost Protocol. A chorus of acknowledgements lit up the comm board. On the view screen, the Sigma fleet seemed to ripple and distort, the contours of the ships blurring and then fading from view entirely as the advanced stealth field engaged. In seconds, the human vessels had vanished once again. The once formidable visual and sensor readings were now utterly devoid of any trace of the human ships. The wraiths, which had been haunting the void, had vanished without a trace. Xanth stared at his displays in disbelief as his crew erupted into a chaotic chorus of panicked shouts and alarmed klaxons. The human vessels had simply disappeared, as if they had never existed. It was inconceivable. The counselor roared in frustration, but his shout turned into a scream as the Aeran flagship was violently jolted by a massive impact. Sparks erupted from shattered consoles, and the deck tilted wildly beneath Xanth's feet. The rest of the Aeran armada was faring no better. Explosions of fire and debris erupted from a dozen ships as the Sigma fleet's first salvo found its mark. The alien shields flared briefly before failing under the relentless assault, and the hull plates buckled like thin foil as the undetectable projectiles struck their targets. Xanth staggered to the flagship's viewport, his heart racing with fear. He watched in mute horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed, the human weapons striking with ruthless precision. On the Indomitable, Logan observed the one-sided slaughter with cold satisfaction. He wanted the aliens to experience the same fear and helplessness they had inflicted on so many others. He intended them to face the bitter consequences of their cruelty and arrogance. After a long, deliberate pause, Logan ordered a ceasefire, the command heavy with finality. The barrage halted abruptly, leaving the once proud Aeran fleet in ruins. Shattered and leaderless, smoldering hulks drifted aimlessly in the silent void, reduced to mere remnants of the Council's might. Logan's gaze, intense and piercing, met Xanth's through the view screen. Each word he spoke was edged with steel. Look upon your fleet now, Counselor. See how it has been humbled. Your vaunted power has proven to be nothing more than a brittle facade. Just as you once held the life of that innocent child in your hands, so now I hold the fate of your entire species. He leaned forward, his face filling the screen as his eyes bored into the trembling Aeran. I want you to feel that fear, Xanth. I want you to understand in the depths of your soul how close you are to annihilation. I could give the order at any moment to consign your wretched kind to oblivion. Logan's smile was cold and devoid of warmth or mercy. But I won't, not yet. I spare you now for one purpose only, to serve as a messenger. You will return to your council and tell them what has transpired here. Make them understand that the age of their dominion is over. Humanity will no longer tolerate the yoke of oppression. We will claim our rightful place among the stars, and we will brook no opposition. Those who stand against us will be ground to dust and cast into the stellar winds. He raised his hand in a mocking gesture of benediction. Go now, Xanth. Run back to your masters with your tail between your legs and pray that when we meet again, I am feeling merciful, for your sake and for the sake of your entire race. As the transmission cut off, Xanth was left staring at a blank screen, the taste of ashes thick in his mouth. The galaxy had irrevocably changed, and he had been the catalyst for that change. Logan ended the transmission with a curt nod, his face disappearing from the view screen. Turning to his bridge crew, Logan's brow was furrowed. This is only the beginning. The Council won't let this stand. They will gather their forces and strike us with everything they have. Samir, his fingers moving swiftly over his console, spoke up. Captain, if the Council unites the other species against us, even the Sigma fleet could be outmatched. We have the technological advantage, but they have the numbers. Logan nodded, his tactical mind already formulating potential strategies. Then we need to level the playing field. Helm, plot a course for the Coryx Nebula. Maximum burn. The bridge crew exchanged uncertain glances, but quickly sprang into action. The deck thrummed beneath their